Hey Phoebe, how you doing? Okay, wow, what a drag. No printer. Trying to do this on your screen must have been a nightmare. Um, let's go ahead. I highly recommend that you get this printed out for your final submission because it's impossible to try to trace this on your monitor, and it's going to end up displaying some craft problems and some areas in that regard. And I'll talk about that in a second. But let's go ahead and jump right over to your sketch. Actually, I thought you did it pretty well for considering you had to kind of trace this off the screen. So again, um, just print out the BA and the N in the provided document, and then go ahead and trace these. Traditionally, try to stay away from doing this on the screen. Your results will be superior, I promise. But actually, I'm really surprised you came out with some really good results here, considering the limitations presented to you by having to trace on the screen. So I was pretty impressed with that. So as far as your letter spacing goes, I think you've done a really good job here. It's a couple of inconsistencies here. I think that the space between the A and the N here and here is a little bit too thin, and I'll talk about the relevance of that in 1 second. First, I want to talk about craft. Now, this should be these smudges. You don't want any of that. You want the craft to be as impeccable as possible, and so think about that. I think also right now the baseline doesn't seem to be level. It seems to be kind of going up a little bit. It's a little bit lower here than it is here. So that kind of it creates an uneven baseline, and that's relevant because it seems like the word is kind of going uphill. So make sure you get that baseline perfectly level before you get started. I also noticed there is no depiction of the baseline, the mean line, and the cap line in this particular example. So you want to make sure that you have those in place. And just again, right here, baseline, mean line, cap line. So you definitely want those in place for your final submission. A pretty good job with consistency on the letter forms. I think one of the things you want to really concentrate on is the variable stroke width. Like right here in the lowercase a, you can see this area right here is much thinner than it is over here. But we really don't see that. Well, actually, in this one we do, but in this one it's closer to the same. You've represented that pretty well, but really want to see those changes. Also, take a look at, where was I? Yeah, the ends right here. Watch that variable stroke width right there. We can see right there at the left. And you've done a really good job here. I'm actually really impressed that this is how you came. That these results came off of tracing from the monitor. Actually, quite impressive. Okay, so and other than that, I think you're looking great. A little fat right through there. We can see that's a lot thicker, that bowl. And the actual bowls, the actual counter, that's this open space within the upper and lower bowl of the uppercase B. They're inconsistent in shape. So you want to take those shapes and take a look at those. The lower bowl, the counter is going to be bigger than the upper counter. That's an optical relationship, and you've shown that quite nicely here. So again, great job there. Watch the shapes, the negative shape, the negative space. Watch the shapes of those. Okay, finally, let's talk about spacing. As I said, I think you did a great job here. Let's take a look at a general rule of thumb for letter spacing for sans serif typefaces. Okay, so the widest space that you want to see, well, let's start with the narrowest space. The narrowest space you want to see is the space between two curved letter forms. And the reason you want those to be more narrow is because you have these open areas down here, and you want this negative counter space between letter forms to kind of think about how it would fill with water. You kind of want these to fill up with water evenly if you were to pour a pitcher between the spaces in each of the letter forms. With the exception of that big open counter right there, you would just kind of draw a line from here to here and see how that would fill up with water as opposed to this. This would be more close together. This would be wider, right? In order for them to contain the same perceived volume. So the widest space between the narrowest space between letter forms should be between two curved letters forms like the B and the A. The next widest would be between a straight letter form like the N and a curved letter form like the A. And then the widest would be between two straight letter forms. So conversely, theoretically that means that this space should be the most narrow, then followed by this, and then the space between the two straight letter forms should be the widest. So work on that. Now, when I say the widest, it shouldn't be noticeable. It should look completely natural, but the letter spacing should be a couple of pixels wider. And that is demonstrated in this video right over here in the announcements area. So how to kern banana. Take a look at this video before you do your second iteration for this week for Sunday's submission. I think it will really, really tie things together, making a lot of sense. Okay, again, watch your craft. Get that baseline, mean line, cap line in there. Represent your variable stroke widths, true verticals. I did say baseline, mean line, cap line. Oh, craft definitely, and letter spacing. All right. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any clarifications. Other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing your final iteration submitted this Sunday. Thank you very much. Nice job.